Hey guys, and welcome back to Daily Duels. So this video is just like the final ban list talk where I record the talking ahead of time and then I do the duels later to fill in the video. So this is probably one of those videos where you can just sit back, relax, do your homework, and just listen to me talk. And this time I actually want to talk about my concerns about Konami and this upcoming list, where I feel like we think that Konami is on our side, and they're trying to fix the game for the good. Unlike OCG, where they try to speed everything up to try to get as fast as other decks by taking cards off the ban list or taking cards off the limited list, and making decks stronger through those methods. Our Konami likes to weaken everybody down to the same level by taking the top tier decks and pulling them down. And I'm feeling like that's not necessarily the case in which what Konami is doing, and I feel like they're definitely trying to make more bang for their buck, and I'm worried that TCG Konami is turning this game into pretty much just all about money, all about having the best deck, and the best decks being the current decks that they want to be. Now, as you guys know, this January through April format was a great format. We had a ton of different decks top, and no more Dragon Rulers. But the problem is, and I definitely can see it from Konami's eye, is that the decks topping weren't the decks that they wanted to sell. The decks that were topping had nothing to do with Legacy of the Valiant at all. I mean, sure, you got 101, sure, you got, your Exciton Knight, but those cards weren't what made. There was no 101 deck or no Exciton Knight deck. So definitely I feel like this upcoming list is a list where Konami is definitely going to show their true colors and be like, hey, we want to sell Primal Origins. Look at the decks in Primal Origin. We're going to boost these up, and we're going to kick every other deck that topped the previous format in the mouth. And you can see examples of that from the previous ban list, where we thought that, Konami was going to do a little bit of hit. Like Dragons to 2, and, the Sword to 1, and, Return ban, Sixth Sense ban. That's, that was probably the most extreme that everybody predicted they were going to do with Dragon Rulers. I mean, some people predicted 1, but, no one thought that they were going to go to the extremes of what they did with Dragon Rulers going to 1, and, Dravine getting banned. Complete Debris Dragon going back down to 1. Just complete and utter extremes to kill off the deck to move on with the game. And I definitely feel like this upcoming ban list in April is definitely going to be another extreme ban list where the current top decks are going to get kicked in the mouth. Even the tier 2s aren't even going to get slapped around just to make room for the decks that Konami wants to sell in Primal Origins. And now, since we're doing these ban lists much more often, every single pack there's a ban list, Konami has the ability to do that. And just if it's not at the top deck of the format isn't what they want to sell, they can easily just slap it in the face, slap a couple cards on that deck onto the ban list or the limited or the semi-limited, and pretty much just move that deck aside and just be like, hey, go ahead and play this new deck. And also, as we learned from the previous list, the list that we currently have right now, is that Konami is not afraid to, shake the game and move a couple cards around just to promote their new product. Alright, now I've said this before in my Banlist prediction, but how many of you guys thought that Tenki was either going to stay at 2 or go down to 1 on the January list? I know, a lot of people did. But all of a sudden, Tenki back at 3, and we're like, okay, what the heck? It was just at 2, now it's back at 3? Why? Because they were trying to promote Boojins. Lonefire, probably one of the most powerful monsters, plant-related, in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh!, was sitting at 1 for a cool minute, because, Konami hated plants, they hated the creativeness of plants. But all of a sudden, they just put it up to 2 because they wanted to promote Sylvan. And that's definitely another topic that I want to bring up, is that Konami hates creative decks. And that's definitely what we're going to see on this upcoming ban list, is that Konami hates the creativity of a deck. If it's not this archetype, they don't like it. Think about all the creative decks that have sprung up in Yu-Gi-Oh! History and have done successfully. Where are they now? They're dead. Alright? Look at plants. That plant synchro? Dead. Look at Dragon Rulers. Dead. Dino Rabbit. Dead. And you know, Konami is not afraid to, you know, take it apart because they're not an archetype. They're not really making any money. You know, those decks are like bits and pieces of cards that you pretty much put together in your own method, but it's not like you can go to a store, buy a box, get enough of the box of that archetype, and put it together and earn Konami some money. These are just rogue decks that happen to do well, and that's definitely not what Konami wants. So I definitely see the rogue decks, these you know, these really well built decks that do really successfully, being torn apart limb from limb just because it's not what Konami wants. They're not archetypes. And specifically, the one that I'm pointing fingers at this time is this +1 Fire Fist. This is once again another creative deck. It's built similar to, you know, how Elements with Heroes were built. Low monster count, highly consistent, tons of back row, good control deck, and obviously the top deck of the current format. And I definitely feel like Konami is going to take this deck and punch him in the mouth so damn hard that you won't be able to make it next format. It won't be a contender next format. And I see a ton of people's Banlist predictions where they're like, oh, we're gonna hit Tenkies because you know that Tenki, but they're not gonna hit Tenki. I will put money on it. They're not gonna hit Tenki. They got Bujin support in Primal Origins. Why the hell would they hit Tenki, which boost up Bujins, when in Primal Origins they're promoting Bujins? That's definitely not what they're going to do. Tenki's going to remain at 3, guys. But this +1 Fire Fist, and I've seen people do it like, oh yeah, we're going to hit Bear, oh, we're going to hit Wolfbark, no, we're going to hit Tenki. And, you know, I've seen a ton of people say it and a ton of people do it, even on my Banlist prediction. And this is pretty much also a revision to my Banlist prediction because I was taking Konami way too lightly. And I was definitely incorrect in my prediction because I was taking Konami too lightly. Alright, so here's the revision. +1 Fire Fist is the best deck. It's a rogue deck that they don't want to promote. They want to punch it in the mouth. They do not want to be successful in the next format. I predicted that Bear was going to go down to 1, and that was going to be enough, where the deck was hurt, but, you know, you could still do something with it, you know, replace the Bears with Gorilla, etc., run Call the Haunted, but the point is that deck would still be alive, and I feel like that's definitely not what Konami wants for this upcoming next format. They don't want that deck alive. They don't want that deck alive. They do not want this rogue deck that they're not making any money off of being more powerful than their new upgraded Bujins, their Sylvans, their artifacts. That's definitely not what they want. So I'm gonna make an errata, an amendment to my Banlist prediction. Bear limited to 1, and hold up. Wolfbark also limited to 1. Those two being limited to 1 will shut down the +1 Fire Fist deck completely. The deck is done. It is completely dead. And that's definitely the extreme that I feel Konami is going to do. Another deck that we should, you know, definitely look at is Mermails. Mermails have been a dominant deck since they came out, and they've been a dominant deck longer than Dragon Rulers. It's pretty much been about a year since, you know, Mermails came out, and they've been a dominant deck. And I definitely feel like Konami is definitely going to just punch this deck in the mouth. That it's done. It's done. Mermails are too powerful, and the problem is that they're more powerful and more consistent and better at doing their job than the Sylvans that they want to, you know, acknowledge and produce. So I definitely feel like Mermails are going to get punched in the mouth hard as well. And I believe on my Banlist prediction I said Abyssius to 1 and Sphere to 2. And I feel like that's a decent hit where, you know, Mermail deck is just so crippled that they're probably going to have to put it away. But, you know, if Konami goes to the extremes of saying like Abyssius to 1, Sphere to 1, you know, even hit to the extreme of hitting Spike, I wouldn't be surprised because they want to kill that deck. The deck is earning them no money anymore. They are losing money on that deck doing so well. And, you know, being able to beat, you know, Bujins or, you know, the new product that they want to sell in Primal Origin. So I definitely see that deck getting punched in the mouth. Now, Gurgia Karakuri is kind of like an exception because sure, they want to hit the deck because, like I said, Gurgia Katakuris do have the possibility of being more powerful than the upcoming decks that they're trying to promote. But the thing is that, you know, we're not sure when that Gurgia deck is going to come out. It has not been announced for OCG, so therefore we cannot predict when it'll come out for TCG. But, you know, I could definitely see Konami just completely shutting down the Katakuri aspect of it. I predicted that Bure going to 1, and I definitely see Konami putting Bure to 1, where, they're just like, hey, yeah, Geargia, no, I predicted Geargia get a 2, and I was going off of set precedence with Abyss Sphere. But, I wouldn't be surprised if Konami just left that deck alone, just because, they know that they're going to have future profit in that deck. So, to hit the Karakuri aspect, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, they hit Bure to 1, they hit, Nishi down to 1, or the little doggy down to 1, or whatever. Just, kill the Katakuri aspect of the deck where they're not making any money, and, try to keep Geargia as untouched as possible to promote their new product. And as you can see, it's all about that money. Alright, here's the thing that's probably going to piss off a lot of people, and a lot of people. Stratos will not be unbanned this list. No. I keep on seeing ton of people's ban list predictions, and they're like, Stratos unbanned because of the new hero structure deck? We're not getting that yet. TCG is not getting this ban list. No. It comes out in OCG in like June, July. Therefore, we're not getting it until at least September, maybe October. Alright, guys? So, definitely not. Stratos is probably one of the most controversial and most powerful cards currently on the ban list. There's a couple cards on the ban list that are powerful within itself, but if came off unbanned, wouldn't make a particular deck more meta than it currently is. But Stratos, unbanning Stratos would take a deck that, has always been really well and can put it up to a meta tier deck, which would lose Konami money, especially if the hero deck would be powerful enough to take out the product they want to produce. Therefore, unbanning Stratos would be devastating to the money that they're trying to make. Now, we pretty much have to wait. If we wait and see what's in the structure deck, if we see Stratos, there's a good chance that Stratos can be unbanned, because, as you guys know, Konami produces their product a year ahead. That's the reason why when we got the Blue Eye structure deck and there was Monster Reborn in it, and we're like, why is Monster Reborn in the Blue Eye structure deck? I thought, Monster Reborn is banned. The reason why is because they made that structure deck at the beginning of the year. Konami already has their product. Konami already has their product for the entire year. And they're steadily just, showing it off piece by piece, getting you all excited, getting you all hyped. But they already have their product. Therefore, they already have this hero structure deck made for, the likeways of OCG, and, they can make simple amendments and changes to it with TCG, like they've been doing for the previous list, where, we were supposed to get a common card in one. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was what was it, Max C? I think it was Max C, and we didn't get that. Transmodify, we didn't get that. So, for all we know, for our version of the structure deck that could be totally different, for all we know, they can amend the structure deck and take Stratos right out and put in a freaking, another MST. You don't know. We don't know. So to say that Stratos is going to be unbanned just because of this new hero structure deck is, very ignorant of how you picture Konami. Now, the other half of what I'm worried about with Konami is how far are they going to go to promote their new product in Primal Origins. And what I'm afraid of is that they're willing to shake this game down to its core just to produce, where it seems like Konami is gonna be is like, you know what, yeah, we're going to go ahead and change the ban list and make it look like we're trying to balance out the game, but really we're just trying to promote our new product. And it was definitely evident in the previous ban list, where you saw things like Tenki go up to 3 and Lonefire go up to 2 just to promote their Boojins and their Sylvans. And I feel like maybe because of those decks didn't do as well as they predicted with this previous list, that they're going to push this product, these current cards, push them even more just to get them more out the door. And I'm very afraid that this is going to actually hinder the game and the likes that I'm not sure that I'm really happy with them doing. Harpies, I can see Harpies getting hit more than what I predicted on my current list, where sure, they're the tier 2 deck, they pop up in top every once in a while, but the thing is that they're doing well more. Well, I mean, I don't want to say more well, but you get what I'm saying. Doing better than what their new product can do. That Harpies will be able to do better than Boojins, do better than Artifacts, do better than Sylvans, do better than Noble Knights, and in which case, they flip the tables, they power up those decks, and they weaken these, even to the extent of tier 2 decks that top this format. So I could definitely see, Herpes getting punched in the coochie. I can see, heretic dragon rulers, and some people, that's definitely another debate, where some people are predicting that the dragon rulers will get hit, or maybe the heretics will get hit. On my Banlist prediction, I wasn't completely sure. But as sitting down and watching other people's Banlist predictions, I'm starting to learn that this tier 2 deck could be more powerful than the current product, and Konami hates these dragon rulers now. TCG Konami even went to the extremes of firing the people who were involved with the dragon rulers. And you can see on the last list, they hit dragon rulers hard and were like, hey, look, they're dead. Put them away, And I wouldn't be surprised if Konami went to the extremes of banning the dragon rulers and hitting the heretics, which would be totally crazy and extreme. But it's not like the first time that Konami has did it. For goodness sakes, they hit Dragunities with their Dragon Reed just to hit dragon rulers. And I wouldn't be surprised if the dragon rulers got banned, and just as a precaution to make sure that heretic rulers don't do too well and start beating their next product. Hitting a tomb, hitting the seal of confiscation, etc., etc. Just hitting the deck in general. Now, on back to the topic where I was talking about where I was worried about Konami promoting these new decks. As we know, the new decks that Konami is trying to promote, well, not new, but what they're trying to promote in Primal Origins are, I guess, photons, but, there's really not much they can really shift on the ban list to really promote photons. But definitely Boojins, Sylvans, Artifacts, and Noble Knights. Those are the decks that Konami is trying to promote. And like I said, I'm afraid that some cards are going to be moved on the ban list just to promote and strengthen these decks to make sure that these decks are going to be the next tier 1 for the upcoming format. So people will therefore buy the packs, buy the booster boxes, buy the cases, and make Konami money. Because Konami makes more money off of boosters than they do off of structure decks. Unbanning Stratos, even despite the structure deck, would be a huge mistake because Konami makes more money off of booster packs than they do off of structure decks. Structure decks, to try to get people into the game, but the last thing they want to do, and that's definitely evident in previous ban lists, where you can go to the store, buy 3 structure decks, slap them together, and it be a top tier contender tier 1. I mean, look at the agent deck, for goodness sakes. Where you could go to the store, buy 3 agent structure decks, put them together with a little bit of TG, and bam, you got yourself a tier 1 deck, especially in the LCG. And what happened to that deck? It got murdered. I mean, sure, it's steadily been getting its cards back, but that's the reason. But because that deck can't keep up with the current meta. But heroes have always been very good, at least a tier 2 with Stratos. If you're giving them new cards plus Stratos back, that deck can probably pull out tier 1 easy, especially with the strength in numbers. Especially how much people love heroes, where they're like, free my nigga Stratos. Their strength in numbers. People are going to pick up the hero structure deck again, go and top with it, and therefore, because of strength in numbers, that deck is going to do more. It's going to do better than the products that they're trying to sell in Primal Origins, therefore it's going to hinder Konami's product. Now I keep on getting off topic, and I keep on wanting to get back to this topic, and this is definitely what fired me up to do this conversation, is that I'm afraid that Konami is going to put up cards on the list, and errata cards, which is lately what they've been doing, is errataing a lot of cards, just to, change the views of the game, and to change the strength of current decks. If you guys are not aware, Catapult Turtle recently got an errata where you can only use the effect once per turn, and that's not game shaking or breaking or any news like that. But the thing is that it sets precedents for other cards, in which Dark Strike Fighter got an errata where you can only use the effect once per turn. Therefore, there's a good chance that that card can be, limited to 1, and they're putting it in the same boat as Cowboy, but the thing is that Cowboy can't dish out the damage that Dark Strike Fighter can do. Dark Strike Fighter by himself can rip off half of your life points. It's still a very powerful card. It's no Cowboy. You know, I mean, you can go poke, 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 summon Cowboy, detaching Cemetery and hit for 800. Dark Strike Fighter is a 26 beater by himself, and then main phase 2 can blow himself up to inflict 14. That's 4,000 points of damage to your opponent. Just Dark Strike Fighter himself. And I'm seeing Mega Capital G saying, like, well, if you Veiler, your opponent loses the monster. Cowboy says on the field, if you Veiler him, but if you Veiler Dark Strike Fighter, your opponent loses the monster. Yeah, if, your opponent tributed a different monster, but, tributing, and this is definitely another topic, is that tributing is probably one of the most powerful things because it doesn't start a chain. Tributing does not start a chain, therefore, you really can't respond to it. You would have to just affect Veiler it. As soon as it hits the field, it's not it's not spell speed 2. So you can't wait till your opponent does it. You can't wait for your opponent to go Dark Strike Fighter effect on itself, and then you can go Veiler. You can't do that. You can't do that because the monster is already tributed. It's already gone. It resolves in the graveyard. It's the same reason why you can't Fiendish Chain a Rescue Rabbit because it's tributing itself. Same thing with Thunder King Ryo. It's tributing. So if it tributes itself and you try to grab it with an effect Veiler, it's already too late, and that's definitely the problem with it. But the thing is that there are errataing cards that, have nothing to do with needing errataing. And the specific card that I'm looking at and I'm worried about, because I saw someone's Banlist prediction and they were predicting that Reasoning would go up to 3. And I was like, eh. But then he was like, because now it says Excavating. And he was like, because it powers up Sylvans and Excavating. I'm like, not commenting. I was like, what are you talking about? Reasoning doesn't excavate. That doesn't excavate. And he's like, yeah, it actually got a reprint and now it excavates. And I had to look it up and hold and behold, yes, it does. It's getting errated to say Excavating. So, definitely, with the power of Reasoning, I can definitely see Sylvans being tier 1 just because how powerful it is. You can go Reasoning, your opponent calls out a number, and you start not milling anymore, excavating. Therefore, all the monsters that you sent that weren't, it's just ridiculous, It's just like, I activate Reasoning, you call 4, I excavate, a 3, The thing is that it was still excavated. That's the thing, is that its effect would still go off. And I do not know why Konami changed it to say excavate. By the definition of excavating, it's not excavating anything. That's just milling. When you excavate, you do something with the card. As you can see with Sylvans, when you excavate and it's not a monster, when you excavate, it goes to the bottom of the deck. That's excavating. There is a clear difference between excavating and milling, and the lines are starting to get blurred as Konami starts changing cards. I'm afraid that, Konami is going to, unlimited Reasoning just to promote Sylvans, unlimited Lone Fire, which, Sylvans have already been doing great with Lone Fire at 2, but at 3, it's just going to get straight ridiculous. I'm afraid that they're going to change Card Trooper to, say, excavate instead of mill, so, you get to excavate 3 with Card Trooper, and you already know how Card Trooper is, then unlimit Card Trooper to promote Sylvans, in which then you have the Dupe Troop combo, and, the game is just going to fall apart, and it seems, just for Konami trying to promote new product, and I'm definitely afraid of that. Tenki has been a great card this format, probably one of the best, especially promoting +1 Fire Fist. But I don't see that card getting hit just because they want to promote Bujin. I said in my Banlist prediction that I feel like they're going to maybe semi-limit Rhoda just to promote their Noble Knights, which are in Primal Origins. You can see that Konami is just steadily trying to move cards and promote other cards just to promote their new stuff, their new product, and even if it has to shake the game a little bit and affect the meta. Konami doesn't care. The only thing that Konami cares about is, and it seems like, is that they care about money. I was watching the RJB Zero's video where he was afraid that they were going to hit MST to promote the new artifact MST. And, if that card came out to be a high rarity and MST is hit and you need to use this artifact card, Konami wouldn't be afraid to punch their player base in the mouth with this whole hitting MST but promoting this artifact, which is pretty much like an MST. But the problem is that would definitely isolate a lot of the player base. especially depending on the rarity of this card. Like this MST artifact card is like a secret rare, and it ends up being very expensive. You know, a lot of people would quit because MST is just that powerful of a card, and now since you've hit it, and now you're just like, hey, get this new card. And the thing is that it's not like Konami's never done it before, where they banned Pot of Avarice just to promote their new Pot of Duplicity. You know, hating MST to promote this new artifact MST. You know. On my balance prediction, I predicted that Skill Drain was going to get hit because it's hurting their new product, but really, in retrospect, not really. And, you know, the only deck that it's really hurting is Bujin, but, you know, Bujins can play around it, you know, with, like, Kaisers and Vanities and being the only monster on the field, tons of back row. You know, of course, they have Centipede to pop it. But Skill Drain also helps out artifacts who resolve in the grave. You know, Noble Knights, they really don't care about their monster effects. It's mostly the strength of their equip spell that give them strength. Sylvans, you know, if they're going to go ahead and make cards outside of the monsters be able to excavate, then you can go ahead and play Skill Drain, excavate through the other means such as the Field Spell and Reasoning and Sylvan Charity, and therefore be able to summon these monsters while Skill Drain's on the field. So really, Skill Drain is kind of helping and making these decks that are coming out in Primal Origin more powerful and being able to hurt the current decks of the meta, you know? So I can definitely see Konami doing along those lines, where they're just trying to hype up decks that are current to their new Primal Origins, and that's definitely what I'm afraid of, where instead of balancing the game, they're just going to try to promote their new stuff, and I'm definitely afraid that Konami is going to do that, you know? I'm seeing people's banlist predictions where they're unbanning cards that, you know, I definitely don't see being unbanned, specifically Yada. I'm seeing a lot, besides Stratos, I'm seeing a lot of Yada, where they're like, oh, you know, Yada, you know, who would play Yada? Yada is like Magician of Faith. Yada is not like Magician of Faith. Magician of Faith was pretty much, after all the major cards have been hit, spell cards, where they're just like, you know what, Magician of Faith is not as powerful, we can go ahead and do that, you know, and it's pretty much the nail in the coffin for cards like Monster Reborn and Heavy Storm. Yada, on the other hand, Yada is just unhealthy towards the whole game mechanic of Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game of resources, where if you hinder your opponent's resources, you can easily win the game. Now, I see some of these people like, oh, Yada won't do anything, no one will play Yada, and Yada won't do anything. And they're like, oh, well, you know, your opponent could be low on resources and you poke them, but you know what, they had that coming. Like I said, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game of resources. You have to use resources to do plays, and you got to keep resources, and, you know, it's good to have your resources ahead of your opponent. That's the reason why Reckless, Greed, and Upstart have been doing so well, because you're going through your resources faster. Yada is the complete opposite, where instead of going through your resources faster, like Upstart and Reckless Greed, Yada locks down your opponent's resources, you know? The evidence of the absence is not the absence of evidence. People are saying like, oh, you can stop Yada with the, you know, back row, and, you know, but the thing is that there will actually be a situation where you're low on resources, your opponent is up on resources, and just to, you know, put you in even a deeper hole, poking you with Yada. Therefore, you're not drawing, you're not gaining the resources to get out of the current situation. So Yada is blatantly just unhealthy for the game. Just, you know, even if you can't search it with Sengen, even if there is no Chaos Emperor, Yada would still be unhealthy because it still hinders the game mechanic of drawing, which is a major game mechanic, for goodness sakes. So, definitely, Yada, I don't see Yada coming off. Now, the thing is that, and I'm worried about it, is that I see Glow Up Bulb coming off just to promote Sylvans. You know, it definitely depends on how strong that Konami wants to promote Sylvans. I can see Glow Up Bulb coming off. I can see them errating it to say excavate. You know, excavate the top card of your deck to summon out Glow Up Bulb from the graveyard. Therefore, you know, the monster that you excavated would get its effect. You know, another monster that I can see coming off, but no, not really, but it can come off, is Demok. Pretty much because all the cards related to Demok have been banned in some sort of way. You know, I've even went to the extent of looking it up and going into research of it, and pretty much all the Demok loops have been disappeared from the game, unless some spellcasters have a Monster Reborn, and I'm not counting Spellbook of Life because you have to banish resources. That gives you an unlimited amount of revives, such as Monster Reborn, Premature Burial, But as long as we don't have cards like that, and of course with Magician of Faith, DMOC does have the possibility to come off. Sure, it would make spellbooks a lot more powerful, where you can simply go spellbook of secrets, search for something, summon Temperance, tribute Temperance, summon DMOC, go ahead and grab the spellbook of secrets back. Yes, which would be a +1 and a very good play, but it's not entirely game breaking. So as long as we don't have cards like Dimensional Fusion or cards like Premature Burial or Monster Reborn, in which you would go ahead and summon like a Cannon Soldier, activate Imperial Iron Wall, Monster Reborn DMOC, get back your Monster Reborn, tribute him, Monster Reborn, and loop it like that. There's really no plays that DMOC can do, and especially since we've seen the unbanning of Magician of Faith, they're pretty much in the same boat, except, of course, DMOC being a lot more powerful. And I saw that Konami was testing the waters with Magician of Faith, and Konami did say that they want to unban every card and test the waters. But DMOC is definitely not as powerful as it used to be, and definitely if DMOC gets unbanned, that would definitely be just it. That would be the nail in the coffin. You can give up any hope of Monster Reborn ever coming off ban, because that would just be too powerful. That would create the loops that DMOC had, and that's definitely not what we want, and that's definitely something that Konami frowns upon. But like I said, I'm worried about this ban list. I'm worried about the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm worried about playing it professionally or going to regionals and YCSs, etc. Because I'm afraid that Yu-Gi-Oh! is starting to become a game where it's frowned upon to be creative. In which case, you're not. If you have a creative deck, this rogue creative deck, you're not going to do well, because the archetypes that Konami is trying to promote are so much more powerful, and the game of creativity is pretty much being thrown out the window, in which case, you'd probably want to go to other card games. And sure, we don't have like this rotating out where, you gotta use the new cards similar to how Magic or Pokemon do it, but Konami is pretty much in its own way just slowly just shutting down creativity and, forcing these archetypes on you, and it's not the kind of game that you'd want Yu-Gi-Oh! To be, because we have 5,000 Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, and you want to use whatever you want to use, correct? If you want to create your own Blue Eyes, Red Eyes deck, go ahead, you do it. You want to play Yubel, go ahead, you do it. And I'm definitely afraid that Konami is going to, actually start leaning towards this whole rotating out system that the previous games do, which would definitely isolate their players. Like, pretty much, that would be like the last nail in the coffin for Yu-Gi-Oh! If Konami decides to do that, where you can only play the cards on like the last 3 packs. That would definitely suck and isolate a lot of the player base, and I'm worried that Konami is going to do that. And I'm just worried about, Konami and the upcoming ban list in general. So that's pretty much all I got to say about it. Go ahead and tell me what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for all the support. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Maybe striving with Stanzi, but definitely using Harpies. Thanks for watching. Or listening.